"Fat Timmy, what do you think you are doing?" And as Timmy heard their voices, she felt a little bit of fear. In a small village, there lived a fat girl who is called Timmy. Although she is beautiful, but because of her body size, the men in her village could not see the beauty in her. Timmy is a young woman of age 25. She lives with her mother who sells red palm oil and coconuts. Timmy helps her mother to make and process palm oil, and because of how the palm oil is being made, she always comes back home dirty and stained with palm oil. And whenever the men in the village sees her, they always run from her and laughed at her, calling her ugly and fat girl. And as they make fun of her, Timmy felt sad and complained to her mother about how the men in the village made fun of her. She would say to her mother, "Mama, why am I fat?" And her mother would say, "But I told you your father is a fat man." Timmy's father, who was a palm wine tapper, passed away due to an accident when he was tapping a palm wine tree in the bush. In the market, when she's selling her palm oil, some male customers would make fun of her, calling her Fat Timmy, and so they gave her a nickname, adding fat to her name. When customers is being referred to her, they would say, "Go and buy palm oil from Fat Timmy's shop." And so the name spread throughout the village, and she became popular as Timmy the fat girl. One evening, a woman invited Timmy's mother to a marriage ceremony outside the village, and she requested for palm oil to cook the marriage food and for other supplies as well. When Timmy got home, her mother told her about the invitation, and she told Timmy to follow her to the marriage, and maybe she would see someone who would be interested in her. And Timmy said to her mother, "But Mama, do you think any man would be interested in me?" And her mother said to her, "Everybody has who they like, and it doesn't matter how they looks or their condition. There's always a man for a woman and a woman for a man." After Timmy heard the words of her mother, she smiled, and the next day, Timmy and her mother started making preparations for palm oil, as the day of the marriage ceremony they were invited to is in 3 days. When they got to their storehouse, they was in short of palm oil, and if they buy from the market and resell to the woman who needs the oil for the marriage, they would make less money and would not be able to buy clothing for the ceremony. And so, Timmy told her mother that they should go to the bush and pluck down the palm fruits and make palm oil from it. But her mother said, "My daughter, you know that I cannot climb trees and there is no one that can help. Why don't we just buy from the market and then supply to the woman?" And Timmy said, "But Mama, if we buy from the market, what money are we going to use to buy clothing for the marriage? Because the last time I checked, we don't have any new clothes, and the ones we have are already stained with red oil." And so Timmy insisted to climb the palm tree and cut down the palm fruit, since there is no other option for them to save money. And after that moment, they went to the bush where the palm tree is. And as Timmy climbed the palm tree, some men who was around the farm shouted from a distance, "Fat Timmy, what do you think you are doing?" And as Timmy heard their voices, she felt a little bit of fear. But however, she gathered strength and courage because she knew she needed a new dress to attend the marriage ceremony. That afternoon, as Timmy was still at the top of the palm tree, one woman in the bush approached Timmy's mother and said, "Why did you allow Timmy to climb? You know she is fat. And what if she fall from the tree? It will be a different story." And Timmy's mother answered her, "Mama Nkechi, you know I am already getting older and there's no one else that can help me climb." And as Timmy was cutting the palm tree, she was throwing the fruits down to her mother, and her mother gathered and arranged them in a basket, and they filled their basket with palm fruits and took them to their storehouse to process them. And so that day, they managed to gather 20 liters of palm oil to sell for the marriage ceremony. And when she was finished, her clothes was stained with red oil from the palm fruit, and she was covered with the smell of palm oil. And as she was going home, she met Mama Nkeshi's daughter, and Nkechi called her from behind, and she said, "There you are. I went to your mother's shop, but I couldn't find you or your mother. Why did you people not come to the shop today? Some customers was asking of your mother because they needed palm oil." And Timmy answered her, "Oh, we are short of palm oil. That's why we did not go to the market today, but we were at the farm cutting palm fruits to make red oil." And Nkechi said, "Did your mother hire someone to help her climb the tree?" And Timmy replied, My dear, no, I climbed it myself. You should have seen the way I was climbing the tree. I used 5 strong ropes at once." And Nkechi said, What? So your mother allowed you to climb the tree? Why? And Timmy said, it is because I insisted. And by the way, we are going for a marriage ceremony, so we needed oil for supply. That's why. And Nkechi said, okay, I will see you later. And as Timmy was walking in the village carrying the palm oil on her head, some men in their neighborhood was gossiping her. They said, look at that one, fat Timmy. Let's see who will marry her. And one other man said, let her reduce the way she's eating so she can reduce her size, because if a man marries her, she will eat 2 pots of food in one day. And they all laughed. But as Timmy was walking, she knew it was her they were talking about because of how they were staring at her and laughing. When Timmy got home, she felt sad and was crying. When her mother saw her in such sad state, she asked her, Timmy, what has happened? Why are you crying? And Timmy told her how the men in their neighborhood was gossiping and staring at her. Her mother, after hearing Timmy's complaints, she immediately confronted the men and she warned them not to ever make fun of her daughter, or else she will report them to the village king. And she left. And so 2 days after, Timmy and her mother went to the market to get some new dresses for the marriage ceremony. Her mother got her a beautiful brown dress and she got herself a red dress. While Timmy was testing the dress, a man walked into the shop and said, wow, this dress looks good on you. To think of someone of your size. And Timmy smiled and said, thank you. And that was the first compliment she got from a man in the village. The next morning, they started preparing to go out for the marriage outside the village. Timmy carried a bucket full of red palm oil on her head, while her mother carried hers as well. As they were heading outside the village, Timmy saw Nkechi, and Nkechi said, Timmy, this your dress is beautiful. I wish it was my size, eh? And Timmy replied, what do you mean if it were your size? Are you making fun of me? And Nkechi said, no. Why would I? I'm just saying the dress is beautiful, that's all. And she said again, so today is the day of the marriage your mother was invited to? And she asked again, will there be men there? And Timmy said, I don't know. I'm only going there to supply oil. And Nkechi said, oil and you are dressed like that? It's okay. Anyway, bring goodies for me, okay? And so Nkechi left after she finished her conversation with Timmy. And as they got to the village where the marriage is being held, they saw the woman who requested them for palm oil. And she said to Timmy's mother, the marriage has begun. Bring the oil quickly so that we can start the preparation of the food. And as Timmy was dropping down the bucket of oil, she slipped and fell, and all the red oil poured on her body and stained her clothes. And she was covered in red palm oil, and flies started buzzing around her. And she raised up her face and started crying. And as her mother turned around, she saw Timmy crying and oil on the floor, and everyone's eyes was looking at Timmy. Even the bride and the groom, they were all staring at her because of the loud noise they heard from the fall of the bucket filled with red palm oil. What an embarrassing moment for Timmy, a day to remember. And so Timmy quickly ran out of the village, even as her mother was calling her. And as she was running, the people who was around were saying, why is that fat girl running? When she got out of the village, it was a nightmare for her, as her mother wasn't there to back her up from the men who was laughing at her of her body size. But this time, it wasn't the men. In the village, 3 young girls who was playing CD game, an old African game played by young people, using their foot to kick a little cover and throwing seed on a box line drawn on the ground. And as they were playing, they saw Timmy walking. Her dress was covered in red oil and she looked like someone who just came out of wet mud. And they started making fun of her, calling her dirty girl. And one of them approached her and asked, Timmy, why is it that you cannot dress clean for once? You are making it easy for people to make fun of you. And Timmy answered her, not everything you know of, and she left them. When her mother came back from the marriage, she said to Timmy, I was calling you, but you ignored me. Why did you do that? And Timmy said, I felt embarrassed when the oil poured on me. It's as if everywhere I go, bad luck follows me. And her mother told her not to say such a thing, and that she should only take positively. And then Timmy asked her mother, she said, "Mama, what can I do about my size?" And her mother answered her, "The only way you can reduce your weight is by limiting the food you eat. You can start by eating less food a day and also engage in exercises." And she replied, "But I love food a lot." But however, her mother said strictly to her, "This is the only way you can go about it." And at night time, Timmy was awake thinking of how she can go about limiting her food intake, and so she stayed up all through the night. In the morning, when her mother was preparing to go to the market, Timmy was still sleeping, and she went to her and said, "Timmy, why are you still sleeping? Don't you want to go to the market?" And Timmy said, "Oh mama, I'm tired." And her mother asked, "Did you not sleep at night?" And she said, "No." And her mother replied, "Okay," and she left. And so Timmy started thinking about what her mother said about limiting the food she eats. And that afternoon, she started doing some exercise. She would run from one neighborhood to another trying to lose weight. And because of the way she was running, she caught the attention of the villagers who was outside that afternoon. And they said, "What is Fat Timmy doing? Who gave her such motive?" And as she was jogging, some girls was running behind her and shouting, "Fat Timmy, Fat Timmy," calling her nickname to boost her spirit. In the village, there lived a young man named Toby, a man who Timmy likes, but he was not giving Timmy such attention because of her body size. His friends even discouraged him to stay away from Timmy as none of them engaged with her. When Timmy was running, she came across 4 of them, Toby, Femi, Tobe, and Emeka. When Toby's friends saw Timmy, they quickly alerted him and said, Toby, look at your wife." And they all started laughing. And they said again, "What does she think she is doing?" And Toby said, "Can't you guys just let her be?" And they answered him at once, "No, why should we? Can't you see how she's fat?" And they continued to laugh. When Timmy saw Toby, she called him, but however, Toby ignored her and pretended like he did not hear her. And so Timmy continued her jogging. In the evening, Timmy and Nkechi were sitting outside discussing. Timmy told Nkechi about how she saw Toby and his friends, but Toby ignored her when she called him. And Nkechi told her not to bother about him and she should focus on her workout and exercise, and that when she has reduced her weight a little, she would start getting attention. And Timmy said, "Although I kind of like him, but I will take your advice and forget about him or anything anyone is talking about me." And after the night passed by, Timmy continued going to the bush and climb palm trees as she saw it as a new way to help her lose weight. And so she continued doing that for days and weeks. She continued running, doing all the exercises she could do. And after 10 months, her hard work began to pay off. She began to lose weight. Her true body shape began to come out. She started looking fit, and her true beauty was seen outside her. Her mother was so surprised about how she put herself towards the goal of losing weight and limited the food she ate. But during that 10 months of her exercise, she made sure that she did not pass the places where she would see Toby or any of his friends. And so, for 10 months, she did not set her eyes on any of Toby's friends or Toby himself. She even stopped going to the market but continued to help her mother to pluck palm fruit to make red oil for her to sell at the market. And one evening, Timmy was outside waiting for her mother as she normally comes home early from the market. But that day, it was getting late and she has not returned from the market. And so she went to the roadside to check if her mother was coming. And as she went, she bumped into Toby and his friends outside, but they could not recognize her as they have not seen her in 10 months. And as she walked past them, they wondered who the new girl is, as they thought they have not seen her before, not knowing it was Timmy who has gotten slim due to the workout and exercises plus the reducing of the food she ate. And so she stood by the roadside, and after some minutes she saw her mother coming and she ran towards her and she asked her mother why she left the market late. And her mother said she had many customers, that's why. And as Timmy and her mother was walking together, Toby and his friends saw them and they were surprised and said, "Does Timmy have a sister or cousin we haven't seen before?" And Femi said, "She looked just like Timmy. Or are they twins?" And Emeka, one of Toby's friends, said, "We have not seen Timmy for some time now. Did she leave the village?" And after that night, in the morning when Timmy was sweeping outside the house, one of their neighbors saw her, a man, and he said, "Timmy, is that you? Wow, look how you have changed. What happened?" And Timmy said, I am just taking things slow for now. And as Timmy was following her mother to the market, the villagers who was outside was staring at her. Some said, "Wait, that's fat Timmy, but what happened? Look at how she's beautiful. But how come she has reduced her size?" And as she was walking, the men outside was calling her. Timmy looks so beautiful as she caught the attention of the men who was in the village, and because of their loud noises, more people began to come out of their houses to see what is happening. And when one of Toby's friends, Emeka, saw that people was calling the slim beautiful girl Timmy, he ran quickly to call Toby. And when he got to Toby, he said, "You know that girl we saw last night? It was Timmy. She has gotten slim and beautiful. Come and see for yourself how people are calling her." And they both ran that morning trying to catch up with them. And when Toby saw Timmy and people calling her, he could not believe his eyes. He wanted to call Timmy at that point, not knowing that Timmy does not care much about him anymore, because she has decided to let go of her past and what people think about her. And she became beautiful after reducing her size, and people no longer call her Fat Timmy, but Timmy, the beautiful palm oil seller.